Hey there, this is Justin Chamness, realestatewholesalerclub.com. This is our Saturday morning live Shut Up Money show. I've got the Shut Up Money hoodie on, and we're ready today to dive into a live Q&A session with you out there. If you're in the real estate investor game or you're wanting to be, real estate wholesaling or some other aspect, it's all related. It's all interrelated. We're all family. And we're all family here. So I wanted to welcome you. We do have a special guest today, and I do want you to feel free to join us. Okay, we do have lots of people piling up right here into the Zoom room, and you can join us too. So visit us at www.zoomjustin.com. That'll bring you right here to us where we are in the room, and you can ask your question live as we multi-stream on several platforms. And if you're watching on one of those platforms, I'll try to take a look at the chat a little bit and we'll do our best. Okay. But thank you for watching. If you do want to be a part of it, zoomjustin.com. Our guest today is somebody we've met before. All right. I love it when we have repeat guests. I had such a great time with this gentleman the first time. Getting to know him, and he dropped some real gold nuggets about the conversation that he has. Now that was what it stuck in my head like an arrow. Okay. Boom. I said, if I was a fly on the wall during that conversation with that seller, what would I have heard? And he told us, guys, and what he was talking about was doing creative real estate, guys, which, let me say, by the way, my opinion is that in this day and age, in these strange times in which we live, it's important to kind of become a master of creative ideas in real estate. So he was doing a creative deal with this homeowner, and he kind of pulled back the covers and let us see what it was like and how it came together. And I wanted to have him back. He wanted to come back. I said, absolutely, let's do it. Let me introduce to you from Minnesota, sunshiny Minnesota. We have commercial real estate agent and investor. I like to call him a mogul because this guy's impressive. If you haven't met him, here he is, Mr. Bucky Beeman.
Thank you so much. I need that. It's like you give that great intro. I'm like, where's the music? Hold on. Let me see if I can make this happen. Give me a second.
Yeah, do it. Hey, is that one of those square with the big buttons on it?
It is, yes. I got that. I got it set up in my home office, so I'm just starting to figure out how the heck to get this thing working.
Man, I've been toying around with the idea of getting one of those because, it looks like fun. You hit a button. Do it again, man.
All right, here's the music. And then it has other sound effects. I don't even know what I'm going to push here. We'll find out. Oh, there we go.
Hey, yeah, that's the one we needed for you right there.
There we go. Yeah. Got all the sound effects right there. Yes.
That's
so
great.
Thank you so much. Thank you for bringing me on and for a second time. And I enjoyed last weekend watching, and just, I was sharing with Dave, who's on the call. I was sharing once you got off that phone call, I was like, I need to get to work, man. You motivated me to want to get to work. You're doing some good things.
Justin will motivate you. That's true.
It is very true.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to have you here. Yeah. Thank you.
Appreciate it. So what I'd like to do today is I'd like to share my screen, share some of the deals that I've been working on, share some of the deals that I've got into, kind of show people what I think is opportunities, and hopefully it can help some individuals find these opportunities in their market. And the one thing I was thinking too while you're talking is people are at home right now. So what better time to call on potential leads, cold call, find deals, like, you can reach them at home in many, many states because they're probably self-quarantined.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Something to think about. As far as sharing my screen, you want me to just get into it?
Yeah, go for it. And do I need to give you permission for that, or does it just work?
I think it just works. Let's see here. There we go.
Yes, we see it.
Do you see a house with a bunch of yellow leaves? What do you see?
Oh, I used to drive a car just like that.
That one right there?
Yeah.
Looks like. All right. So this was the first property I got into in Rochester, Minnesota. Absolutely love this property for the fact that it had extra parking on the side. I could rent out parking to people that were working at the Mayo Clinic not too far away. And I lived in one of the bedrooms, rented out the other bedrooms to pay the mortgage. But the unique thing about this property was I got into it on a contract for deed. And so contract for deeds is what I've used as a young professional that didn't have a lot of money to get into these properties. Low money down.
Can I pause for a second? I got a
Yeah, go for
question, man. And and I'm sorry to interrupt you because this is vastly interesting already. But a land contract and contract for deed, is that the same thing, or is it different, or does it matter at all?
when you say land contract, I can't say that's a term I'm extremely familiar with. So I would
I'm
guess.
sorry. Yeah. See, when you said contract for deed, I instantly replaced it with land contract in my mind for some reason. So because I thought they were the same thing. That's all. I'm sorry, but
Yeah, they might be. I'm not certain. But contract for deed seller financing. The lady that owned this, she had a little for
yeah.
rent sign out front. I called on it, asked if she would sell, and I got into it low money down and reasonable interest rate. And it was the first property I got into. I was maybe 19, 18, 19 at the time. And she just loved the ambition that I had and believed in my, and I didn't realize I was kind of a natural born salesperson at the time, but I listened to what her struggles were. She didn't like the renters. She didn't like having to deal with properties. And I'm like, I can help with that. And it led to me buying this property. So I just wanted to share that as kind of the first property that I got into. And one thing I'd also point out here, I really like corner lots. I love corner lots because we are in a market that is developing into apartments and a lot of other uses. And I always feel like if I can get that corner lot, if development does ever occur, I'm in a position where someone will want to buy me out. And that's something I've looked for in a lot of the opportunities I've got into. And feel free to
Yeah.
ask questions along the way.
That's a good looking house too. Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So now moving on. So this is, can you see that screen right there?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So this is fast forwarding a little bit. I really enjoy commercial. I enjoy it for several reasons. One, and for those that maybe can't see the screen, what we're looking at is a corner lot once again, and two small businesses. There's the Good Dog Camp on the right-hand side, which is dog training, and on the left-hand side, a company called Dwell Local, which is home decor. And these two buildings were vacant or going vacant, and myself and a partner bought them on a contract for deed once again, relatively low money down. The owner was willing to work with us because he was sick of managing the property and he just wanted it off the books, but still wanted that continued income. And these were the first two properties we bought on this corner. And I love commercial for the fact that you're adding to the community by bringing businesses to neighborhoods that maybe didn't have them before. And two, you're just working with small business owners, which I really enjoy doing. Dwell Local, he started in his garage, and we found him when he was like thinking about getting into an actual brick and mortar. Fast forward 4 years, he's now full time with this location, and he's actually added a second location. And I think that's something unique about commercial too, is you're able to work with businesses that when they're expanding, you might become their landlord in other places around. Where in residential, the person comes in, they rent for a year, 2 years, 3 years. They're not going to go live in three different houses. Well, in commercial, that relationship you build with somebody can lead to multiple deals all around. So this has been a really fun project because we took a block that was kind of known as down and out and vacant and not a lot of things happening. And we've now bought several buildings along the block, all on contract for deeds. I don't know how that happened besides the grace of God. Like the next property owner wanted to sell this one on a contract for deed. And we recently rented it to a guy that is owning Gray Duck Theater and Coffee House. It was a shop building.
Wow.
And I at one time had my office here. No one really saw this ever, nor did I, becoming a theater. But fast forwarding, this person inquired on several buildings in Rochester, and I brought him through this building, and I could see that he had the vision to really turn this into something. So it's now a micro movie theater, 60-seat movie theater, coffee house in the front, and then he lives upstairs. And then just next door is another shop.
Bucky, let me ask you a question. How do you find these buyers like this? How do you, I mean, in the real estate single family residence game, that's pretty simple. Like we show people how to do that, but how do you find a guy that wants to open up a movie theater and a coffee house? You know what I mean? And develop that kind of relationship.
Yeah. So there's several pieces of advice I would give. One is it helps me being a commercial real estate agent. So because of that, I get leads from other listings that then I have to find them a location. So that being said, like get to know your commercial real estate agent or several commercial real estate agents that are working with businesses and just tell them, hey, look, I buy properties and I would love to work with some of the businesses you intercept that are looking for space. And if I can help them get started in any way and we can find a building that fits them, like I could be the buyer. Yeah. And so that's one piece of advice. The other piece of advice, and I'm a big component, I really am a proponent of social media. It never fails. Like those that are probably good at social media and the businesses I'm referring to they need to be good at social media to thrive and survive. Those that are good at social media are usually the ones that are starting to grow. And so just looking at social media in your neighborhood, in your market, and finding the ones that are really doing a good job of putting out quality content and you can see they're documenting and sharing about their business growth, like then getting to know them through same thing you do like you did last weekend, calling them and saying, hey, do you want to sit down for a cup of coffee? Hey, can I just meet you? I'd love to learn more about your business. Like I'm in real estate and I would love to help you expand if I ever could. So that's another way. And just always having your antenna up, like looking for news signs, looking for, opportunities to meet business owners at networking events. This next building right next to the movie theater, this was a body shop. You'd pull your car in the front door. Yeah. And then a little old lady lived in the back. And this is the one I told the last time we were on. I had shared that I went to Minneapolis 2 hours away and I knocked on a guy's door on a Sunday and the guy owned this building in Rochester. And I said, hey, would you sell it? And he's like, well, I guess. I never really thought of it. His mom had passed away and he owned this little shop still. Yeah. And so that I got on a contract for deed as well with my business partner. And the business that's in there now is a floral shop that does weddings and events and things of that nature. And I had seen her in a downtown location and I knew she was growing. And so I just went to her and said, I think I got a good building for you. I'd love to show you. And I had owned it now at this time and walked her through. It was much rougher looking than this and explained how we could do a glass garage door and she could have her workshop. And at the time I was living in the back where the little old lady used to live. I'm like, just, walk by my bed. Don't worry about that. That wouldn't be here. And so that's how that all came to be.
Man, you're blowing my hair back right now with this. Like, I'm just like, whoa, like I can't even believe what I'm seeing and hearing right now. It's so incredible because the opportunities are like endless. I think. I mean, I went down. I could go less than 5 minutes from here where I'm at today, and find a building that looks just like that one, probably, except maybe not as pretty, and a bunch of other also. I mean, they're everywhere, right?
They are. And this is like what I enjoy, what's also called adaptive reuse. You take buildings that are not the use that it becomes and you change it to this brand new use. And so there's hashtags out there on Instagram and other places. You can look up adaptive reuse projects. The common one people are seeing is breweries. They're taking shop spaces, converting them to breweries. Yeah. I love adaptive reuse because you can really change what a building was known for into something that really helps provide value to the community and
something eclectic. Like that movie theater with the coffee shop in there. Now, if you don't mind telling us, you don't have to if you don't want, but these people, like the guy that has that you did the deal with, that moved in and turned it into a coffee shop and a movie theater. I don't know. I just keep thinking about that one because that's just so damn cool, Bucky. This guy, he had good credit. He had some cash. He was stable.
So we can get into the numbers of the deal. I bought the building. So I bought the building for $225,000. The building sat vacant for like 5 years. I had shown it to a bunch of different people that no one wanted to accept the challenge of buying it because it was in rough shape. I actually got a hard money lender to buy the building for $200,000. I bought it back from him for $225,000. I put my commission in as the down payment along with a little extra money. I had no renters when it started off, and I went to work to try to rent it out. The easy ones to rent right away, there's a garage bays that are in the back, and I don't know if I can go around the block, but there was 3 garage bays, and I could rent that out to a lawn care guy, to there was a gentleman getting a divorce that needed a place to store something. I rented a space to a lady that did some jewelry and she wanted a shop space. Rented those for like $500 a month, and those were easy to rent. The front was a little more difficult, so I officed in there for a period of time, and then eventually I found a lady that sold incense and gems and all kinds of things. And then the upstairs I rented to a web developer. Fast forwarding to Grey Duck Theater, he had inquired on a building probably 3 years after I had it cash flowing. Some people came and went in the back just with the nature of the shop spaces being small. He inquires, he's looking at multiple states. It's a young man and his wife. He read some article that said you can open up what's called a micro cinema on $10,000, which is absolutely false. But he was from LA and he was wanting to move back to the Midwest because his wife was from the Midwest. And I was like, you need to come to Rochester. I got to show you the community. So I showed him around when they showed up, and I introduced him to small business owners that had good stories. I took him through the Mayo Clinic. And what we ended up doing on the numbers side is we worked out a deal for base rent and taxes. And let's call that number approximately $3,000 a month. And then we financed a good portion of his build out, which was it wasn't 10 grand. It was about $200,000. And his monthly rent all in is just below $5,000 a month. We were able to go and get a second mortgage against the property to help finance his build out. He had to put some money into, but we got a second mortgage. We are taking a lot of risk, like especially right now with what's going on. His theater is shut down. Like, so we're having to talk to our banks, work out payment plans and vice versa, work out something with him. So we are taking a lot of risk, but we really, really believed in his vision, his ability to execute. And he's been doing great up until the recent pandemic, but he's been doing great, and it was a needed service here in the community.
Yeah.
And so we
and
took
as soon as this wraps up, it's going to come right back with the movie theater.
I sure hope so.
I would think.
Well, the thing that it's interesting what's happened is he's now providing movies online. I don't know exactly how he's doing it, but he's providing movies online. It's changing people's business plans.
Yeah.
So that gets into the numbers. So the reason we could get a second is because we had built up equity. We got it reappraised. The bank saw there was equity. We told them that we wanted to build this movie theater. They thought it was a little risky, but because we had good credit as the landlord, they were willing to take risk on us, which ultimately we're taking risk on the tenant. So that gets into the details of the deal, if that helps.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's
amazing.
Yeah, thank you. So this building, the flower shop, as we'll call it, that one was 140,000 plus or minus, and the fit up was probably 40,000. We did that same deal where we got it appraised, had built up some equity, and we basically wrapped in her build out into our mortgage payment. And so her rent is covering our mortgage plus some. And that's how we were able to get that one working. One thing I just want to point out here, because I knew what was coming in the area as far as these small businesses changing the neighborhood. I've gone on to buy this house just up the corner. So I just point that out to say, if you see something happening in your community where businesses are starting to come into a block, like look at the houses that are nearby, and those values, my experience, have gone up because all of a sudden people that are moving to the neighborhood are going, yeah, and I can walk down to the coffee shop and there's a little home decor shop. And sure enough, just down the block, there's another retail store and a brewery. And so like, that's one thing I've done is paid attention to where businesses are moving, and then in turn try to buy the houses that are around that growth and what's occurring. I didn't get the corner lot in this example, but it was close enough. So yeah, that describes some of that as far as opportunities. I just love old warehouse districts, older buildings. You can tend to get into them at a reasonable rate. Usually the owners are older. They don't have a vision for what the building could become. They're open to the conversation of seller financing. So look for those in your neighborhood where you might be.
That's great. That's really great. What is
All
that
right.
we're looking at? Is that
So
yours?
yes. So now we're getting into a strip mall that is in downtown Rochester, and my partner had a relationship with the building owner, so we got into it on a contract for deed once again. The facade is, as you look at it now, is not what the facade looks like today. It was a dry cleaners for many, many years. So
Guys, is this stuff just not baller? Like, it is totally, this stuff is amazing. I mean, if you are out there sitting on your duff today, guys, thinking the world is like the sky is falling, okay, Chicken Little, look at the opportunities around you. I mean, they are literally endless. It's insane. And right now, like my mouth is watering literally. I mean, I'm just like, oh my gosh, how have I missed this before?
So this shopping center, I like to call them neighborhood shopping centers. They have the small businesses. They got the little dental care, the dry cleaners. This was a little place where they had music, live shows, the sandwich shop, the pharmacy, the sign shop. I like small neighborhood shopping centers because I feel like you can add value to these shopping centers with, and I don't want to, this isn't the best analogy, but it's what comes to mind, like putting lipstick on a pig. Like this property was not in the best shape. We had to do much more than lipstick, but sometimes lipstick can go a long ways. And so what we did is we put a full cedar facade on this, and I'll show a picture of what it looks like now. We put a full cedar facade. We redid the roof because it had to be done. We ended up working out a deal where Deason's cleaners moved out. They weren't using or paying for the space in the way that was really beneficial to help us get to where we wanted to go cash flow wise with the center. So today we have,
Was that a dry cleaner?
yes, it was a dry cleaner. Yep.
Huh.
So today we have on this end cap, we have a restaurant locally owned. The spaces in the middle are still vacant and they're just a shell, and I'm working hard to try to fill those. And then the pharmacy is still there, and the sign shop has changed to a local boutique, locally owned, family in the business for a long time. So I just bring this up as, you know, we're getting into bigger prices. Of course, we're getting into a bigger project, but once again, we're working with small businesses, and because of the small businesses, because we had a restaurant that was willing to go in this end cap, and we had that almost before we bought this property. Because of that, we were able to make this deal work. And once again, we got seller financing. The relationship is what helped get that seller financing. My partner had the relationship with the 80-year-old man that owned the shopping center, and timing worked out, financing worked out. We were able to get into this. So looking at after photos, let me see if I can pull that up. This is going to be a little smaller.
That was the before picture.
You just saw the before. This is the after.
Wow.
And sorry that it's not blown up right here, but it's a cedar siding. We updated the signage, and we have a restaurant, as I mentioned, on the very end. It's called Panakuchen. They do breakfast and things like that. So it's possible, I guess, is the one thing I'd say. And in working with small businesses, you really, really can pull off big projects, and you're taking risk, but the opportunity is there.
Do you get free cheese? Or did you?
No, I didn't. That's one thing I try not to do. I try not to take from the small businesses too much because they're paying their rent.
You know, for an entrepreneur that loves other entrepreneurs and their ideas, this business is heaven.
Oh,
you know?
yeah, exactly. So the Jive Mill, that sign you see right there, husband and wife, the space was vacant, and they reached out. They wanted a temporary space to do music shows to see if their business model would work. So we gave them the space at a reduced rate. And as a result, they got to test out their business model. Ultimately, it didn't work, but they had a good experience going through it. They paid their rent. And so that's another thing. Like, you get to see people experiment with their ideas if you're a willing and able property owner. And I'm always willing and able as long as the space is there, because I believe that activity like that leads to ultimately a long-term business coming in, giving people those chances.
I think I asked you this question last time, but I want to ask you again. Or this stuff we've heard from watching YouTube and TV that when you put these kind of deals together, you put them together what's called triple net, and that's where the tenant pays the rent, the utilities, and the upkeep or taxes. And what is this? What does it mean? And are you doing that?
Yeah. So you usually get longer term leases, unlike residential. You'll get a 3-year lease, for example. And the concern as a landlord is I'm going to come in and improve this property, and property taxes are going to go up. And if I don't get my tenant to pay a portion of those increases, then ultimately I could be in a net loss position.
Right.
And so you need to do triple net leases to protect your overhead. Now, small businesses, I will say, often they just want to know their monthly number. So you got to help them understand why you're doing triple net, and also share with them, like, look, I'm not going to come in and say, well, you need to pay me $1,000 just because. You need to pay me the true actual expenses. So you're able to pass through all types of things: property management, insurance, taxes, exterior, in this example, snow removal. If we had common area lights for the parking lot,
Yeah.
we could pass that through. And then when those expenses fluctuate, plus or minus, the landlord either, or the tenants either see that go affect their bottom line, and it could be to a plus or a minus. So it's nice because it protects your dollar every single month, every single year.
Yeah. What's the
um,
population of Rochester?
130,000 approximately, and we'll
Yeah.
see with the new census, it'll probably go
So
up some.
yeah, so this ain't no small town, podunk place in the middle of nowhere. This is a good sized city, guys. So, I mean, wherever you are, there's opportunities like this.
Absolutely. And we're fortunate to have the Mayo Clinic. It's a huge driver. Over millions of visitors a year come here for medical care. But we really are a one horse town, meaning that is our industry that drives us. And so um, we don't have big companies that are bringing in lots of employees besides Mayo. And you just need to find out what businesses are going to be tailored to those that are working at Mayo or the visitors of Mayo. And even keeping that in mind on the buying side, when we're looking for properties to purchase, like whether it's a house or a commercial, will there be people that will enjoy this that are probably working at Mayo because it's the largest employer in the state and it happens to be in our community?
Yeah, that's great. I would gamble that most of us out here don't know that about our own marketplace. What employers are big, and I think we go through this. We go through life, and we drive around our towns, kind of in this zombie like state, where we don't even notice the obvious, and it's right in front of our faces. Um, but but when you wake up to that and you start seeing some of these opportunities, I bet a guy like you, Bucky, has a great idea at least once a week, man.
I try to. It keeps me alive.
Yeah.
um, I'll show this next property. So the same gentleman that owned the last property also owned this property, and I think you find that in a lot of markets. Is, the people that are in real estate, they have the itch. They buy a lot of properties if they have the capacity to, and they end up owning a lot of properties. And so that property owner also owned this beautiful property. And so, because of the relationship that my business partner had, we were able to buy this one on a contract for deed. And I would consider this like the gem of all gems because it's has this history. It's a historic riverside building. It's really, really cool where it's situated along the river. And when we bought it, people were leaving, businesses were leaving because downtown was somewhat struggling, or there was a change in their business and they just didn't want to be a part of downtown. So we had to work hard to try to fill this. Once again, we had to work with small businesses, and we took risk on a company, for example, called Limb Lab. Limb Lab is a business that does prosthetic legs and arms, and there was three
Wow.
entrepreneurs that were starting their own thing, and they wanted a space downtown, and so we took a risk on them there. um, and then we also helped several other small business owners. And I just bring this up as another one that I would have never imagined that we could have got into something like this on a contract for deed, but we did. And we're talking purchase prices in the millions and down
Jeez.
payments below 100,000 in some examples. And it's one
Wow.
that doesn't normally get done, but I think the relationship really mattered, and it
Yeah.
did. And so just keep that in mind too, of like, if
Wow.
you're calling and you're looking for opportunities and you come across a property owner and you start digging in, like, so you've been in real estate for a while? Yes, I have. What else do you own? What got you into it? I mean, the same questions that you would ask me, coming on this, like, once they start talking about their real estate, and if they love it, like, they'll sit there and talk to you forever, and you never know where that next opportunity might be with that relationship that you build. And so that's so important if you're out there looking for opportunities, is like, not only one, driving by and seeing the building and being like, that looks like maybe an opportunity, but two, getting to know that property owner and finding out how you can help them, because that's really the case, how you can help them move on to the next chapter of their life. And it's not
Yeah.
always about how do I make the most money for some of these property owners. It's definitely a topic, right?
Yeah.
We got to make money, but also it's a matter of how you can help them if they are sick of the management and they just want to continue that cash flow every single month that they enjoy about property ownership, but not have to worry about the duties of being a property owner.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So true. Service. You're doing something valuable for those people. Yeah. Not just not just stealing a deal. You're
Right.
you're building a relationship, and you're helping them. You're giving them a solution. That's a win-win,
Exactly.
or a
Yep.
win-win-win. Ultimately, I like that.
So yeah, that's what I got. We were going to talk about the contract for deeds. It's been a tool that's worked really well for me.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about some of those older warehouse buildings. I'll
Yeah.
show you an opportunity that I'm kind of interested in right now that I see maybe a future for.
Do you have to do a lot of repair work when you come into these, typically, to get them up to code or what have you?
Yeah, if you're doing a change of use, ultimately, yes, you do have to do a lot of repair work. I've been fortunate to meet some good contractors that they recognize I'm going to, over the years, get them several projects. And I think as a result of that, they tend to over communicate with me, and they're good business people in general, but they just provide me a lot of help and me putting the pieces together of keeping it reasonably priced and a
Yeah.
quality product. So yeah, there is a
Yeah.
lot of work that goes into them. So I just wanted to show you guys, here's one that it's listed for sale right now. Another brokerage has it listed. It's a electrical product parts distribution facility. So it's over 20,000 square feet. This company occupies it all with all their parts and racks, and they have their sales office, and they're moving to a bigger building. And it's in an area that is starting to change. There's a brewery just down the road. There's another brewery behind that one. And the theater that I was referring to earlier is just up the road. So it's like it's in that area of change of use and things are
Yeah.
happening. So here's what I've been doing is, one, thinking about it a lot. Two, as I've got leads from people looking for space. I had a lead yesterday, person looking for 5,000 square feet. This is 20,000 square feet. I just said, hey, would you consider going into a 20,000 square foot building and using half of it? And like, or not half of it, but using a portion of it. And he's like, yeah, possibly, send me the details. So like, I'm sitting there. It's not my listing. I don't own it. I don't have it listed for lease. I don't have it listed for sale. I'm still working on it because I see the potential of what it could become. And, high percentage of the time, they don't come to me. It will sell before I put the deal together. It will lease before something happens, but it's that small percentage of the time that I'm working for that leads to me getting into the ownership position
Yeah.
with properties like this. So as you see stuff for sale that is like this, it's not a sexy building. It's block and loading docks and driving doors. But I can see like, okay, we could have a patio out the back. We could have a business here on the left, a business here on the right. It has plenty of parking. It's in an area that's exciting. Like, start thinking and trying to take actions about how to put businesses into those locations.
I got a question that might be dumb. Um, you said this was another uh, agent's listing, correct?
Yes.
How does on an owner finance offer like this, you're going to put something down, but we're talking about a reasonable down payment, like something very, very minimal, really, compared to what you might expect. Um, how does that realtor make money? How did they get paid in the deal?
So the what I've seen is it's going to be a percentage of the sale price, that's for sure. But then usually what will happen is if the owner isn't getting all of their money up front, they work out a payment plan on the commission. And so if you're a commercial real estate agent or a real estate agent, like if I can have in writing that you're going to pay me over the next 3 to 5 years and I get that steady flow of income and I trust you as your ability to perform on that, like I'm willing to work with you on my compensation. So
Okay.
that's usually how I've seen it work. Now there are some real estate agents where they're like, nope, I want my money up front. And then it's just another hurdle you got to work through as part of
Yeah.
the negotiations. Um, but everything's negotiable, right? And so I
Yeah.
have personally, I have some commissions that are coming in over a course of 5 years based on the small business continually being there and being able to perform on rent. Like I got the landlord to take a chance on a small business. I also had to share in that risk of, well, what if they fail in 2 years? I don't want to have to have paid you for your 5-year lease that you brought me.
Yeah. Interesting.
One thing I was just going to say, and it's this week. Deals are still getting done, which is good to see. Um, I negotiated a sale
Wait,
of
wait a minute. Can you say that again? Even though this week deals are getting done?
yeah. Yep.
Really?
Yep. So, and
Yeah.
here's the here's the creativeness of this deal. So, young man wants to buy a lot of properties. He has some money, but not a lot of money, and he wants to buy commercial because that's what he likes. He has a good job, makes good money, and he came to me and asked, "Could we do 20% holdbacks from property owners?" So the owner would finance 20%, and then he has a bank that is willing to loan 80%. He has no money in the deal. And
Wow.
of course, you're fully leveraged, 100%
Yeah.
leveraged. You need to have a good cash flowing property. But we were able to get a deal at least under contract with that type of structure. And this young man who is not 30 could have the opportunity to buy over $1 million property with that structure. Now, again, the numbers got to make sense. It's a high leverage deal. He's got to have his ducks in a row, but I'm talking about contract for deeds where you have to put money down. He came to me and said, I don't want to put any money down. And I'm going, I don't know how to even find you opportunities, but somehow we found an opportunity that it looks
Yeah.
like it could come to be. So it's like, again, these structures of financing and
Yeah.
getting into opportunities, you can be so creative, as
Yeah.
you know.
Oh, that's incredible. Yeah. I got a question for you, Bucky. If you and I were, I mean, the progress you've made is incredible. That's why I call you a mogul. Okay. But 3 years from now, if you and I were to do a podcast session like this 3 years from now, and uh, I was to ask you this question again, what would have had to have happened during the last 3 years for you to be happy with your progress in your business like this as you have it now?
For me, my next big challenge is I want to build something, and I really want to build it from the ground up. So I've been a part of remodeling. I've been a part of change of uses. I've been a part of acquisitions. I just really want to build something from the ground up, that developer hat. And so that's one goal I have out there. And I would hope that within 3 years I've accomplished that. And I don't have to be the lead on it. I just want to be a part of it. And that could be a strip mall all the way to like a condo building. I would love to just be a part of it. Um, the other thing for me would just be continually building a team of people that are ethical, that are passionate, that are building their personal net worth in my real estate company. We have a team of 6 people. Most of us are fairly young. And so just seeing them also be able to say they've had success over the next 3 years, that's probably the 2 big targets I would have out there for the next 3.
That's great. Yeah. So kind of taking seeing yourself pass on some of these gold nuggets you found, and kind of develop those people. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That's a great thing. It's a noble thing too. You know, it's kind of giving back, kind of helping because you started somewhere too, you know, and that's a noble thing. And I appreciate you, man, and what you've shared with us so far today is it's been remarkable, and it's like a whole other level. Okay, it really is, and I know you probably get tired of hearing me say that because I say it, you know, a lot in different ways, but guys, it's like a whole other level. Okay, and what the best part about it is it's right in your face. You know, it's like I've driven past these buildings myself countless times, and sometimes, you know, I'll tell you one that strikes me as interesting here. Somebody did this, must have, down here in Kansas City. There's this little um, a little strip mall, and it's got some businesses in it that are nice. Okay, but then it has some vacant buildings too. And somebody must have done something with one of them because I was driving by it the other day, and you know, I saw a business that I would have never guessed I would ever see in my whole life. I found a business called the Puppetry Arts Institute for people that want to learn how to do puppets. And I was like, this is crazy. Like somebody has a business about puppets and how to train people to work puppets. But yeah, that's the truth. They needed a place to go. They needed a building, and somebody worked a deal out with them. And I think that would be maybe the best part of it for me getting involved in something like that is as an entrepreneur working with other entrepreneurs like that with different ideas, with different, you know, methods. And there it is, man. What in the world?
This is
Uh,
right up my alley, man. I look, there's the theater right down the road too. What is this? There it is. That's the theater. Yep. Is it
yeah,
vacant? It sure looks vacant.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, let's figure out who that property owner is, find out what's going on. I mean, that's that,
I mean, there you go.
and it's got that character. Look at the neon and look at the windows and everything. Like that could be a brewery combined with a theater. That could be so many things. And this,
Yeah.
I love this block already. Just looking at it, the small businesses, and you know, one thing with these buildings too, a little bit will go a long ways. Meaning signage, just getting everybody with this common signage theme. Like nothing bad with this. This is okay. But if you get people with that common signage theme, it helps bring like this person's signage right here. It's just got a nice, it's painted on the, yep, right there. It's painted on there. And then that, it looks like a little sign, but just, the painting of the buildings, yes, this
Yeah.
is an exciting block right here.
Yeah. Yeah. And I bet if you're out there watching right now, there's a block in your town that looks just like that one.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, pretty close, right? I mean, that's like downtown America or whatever. You know, that's every town and that I think I've ever been in America, in the United States at least. So like yeah, incredible. But yeah, I like it because when you pulled up, I had no idea you were going to pull up. That's what I was talking about there with the Puppetry Arts Institute. But yeah, you're right. That whole block there, it kind of has, if you start looking at it through your eyes, the way that you see it, Bucky,
Yep.
it's like, wow, you're right, man. Look at the old style and how this could be like a really cool, like you were saying, coffee shop with a movie theater or something else. You know, um, the possibilities are endless, and I think the mentality of people in the world today is a little more eclectic. You know, with the hipsters and the coffee shops and the you know, the little quaint, you know, I guess is a word, quaint
Yep.
places, and all of the things that they could become and maybe really should be, you know, because what it was 50 years ago really, like, it's gone. So to what I don't remember what you called it. It was like a repurposing. What was the word?
Adaptive reuse.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Adaptive
And I've
reuse.
also seen I talk about taking risk on lower credit tenants, but I've also seen bigger companies want to be a part of that same atmosphere and move into these blocks. I'm talking with an architectural firm right now. They have locations all over the Midwest, and they're like, we want to be a part of the community. We want to be in that area where these small businesses are. And like, they're a great credit. And so that is also occurring.
Yeah.
I want
I
to,
got to write it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm going to share my screen again and show you one other
Okay.
thing, but keep going. What were you saying?
I was going to ask you, I've got a write-in question I was going to ask you, but go ahead and show us, and then I'll ask you.
So this is another great example of, I brought up, the tenant is a big piece of this puzzle. And so this is Thirst Drinks in Salt Lake City, Utah. This young man, I heard him on a Gary V podcast. He comes in, starts asking some questions, and I'm like, who is this guy? Like, he's asking the right questions. He's talking about how he's building this business. He's maybe 20, I don't know. And so I look him up on Instagram. Next thing you know, I'm sending him messages. I'm like, dude, you're killing it. This is awesome. He's got 16,000 followers on his Instagram. His name is Ethan. He also on his own account shares about what he's doing in his drive-through shake and pretzel business, what he's doing to build business. And so I start messaging him and I start asking the question. I'm like, what's your real estate situation? He's like, well, I'm leasing. I'm like, you need to stop leasing if you can, and you need to buy something. Like, that's first off. But two, like, if you see a great location and it seems so overwhelming for you, Ethan, like it's a big property, but you really want that end space. Like, there are people out there that could put the money and the capital together, and you could be a part of that because you're on site. You could be a part of the equity. You could be a part of the management, and you could structure a deal because your business is doing so well. You're such an important piece to the puzzle of trying to figure out how to get real estate to work, that you need to recognize that value. And two, it'll just help you build personal wealth and a long-standing business. So anyways, I find this guy online. It's turned into I feel like a good relationship. Like, we're communicating about real estate and business and things like that. And that's an example of a business that is killing it on social, that in turn, I think they're going to kill it with their business long-term, have multiple locations, hopefully own some real estate and things like that.
Yeah, that's great. So, like you were saying before, you kind of evaluate some of these buyer prospects, or tenant prospects, I guess, as through their savvy with the social media and how well they're progressing with the exposure and getting subscribers, and do they have a presence or not? Because what you were saying is, if they do, those are typically, that's a good sign that they're going to continue to do well and be fruitful, right? But if they're struggling with that, then you might not take a shot with them, right?
Yeah, it's going to be a bigger hill to get up for their business to be able to afford rent, to be able to be long-standing, if they're not adapting to this communications that we have available at our fingertips.
I got a write-in question here. It says, and I don't know if this really applies or not, but you be the judge, Bucky. Excuse me. There is a house that I know is currently zoned as residential. The owner says the home can be zoned as commercial. She has talked to people at City Hall. She says, which she knows personally. I don't know. The home is in need of repair, though. The garage is almost ready to be a barbecue spot. Okay, I guess they're thinking a barbecue joint here. The home can be changed into a commercial property also, or torn down and rebuilt. Businesses are all up and down the street the house is on. Would you value the property as residential or commercial? And if commercial, how would I value the property and land to do a deal with it?
Great question. All right, I'm going to bring up an example. Here we go. So in Rochester, can you see the screen there?
Yes, sir.
All right, so we're on 4th Street Southeast. There's a barbecue joint. It's called Roscoe's Barbecue. It's a little stand. You can walk up, you can get your ice cream and your barbecue. And this corner lot is zoned commercial, but every house around it is zoned residential. And I would say, if you're buying the houses around it, now you need to understand the cost and the process of changing it to commercial. because the vision would be, could you build something here possibly, or change the use? And how you would value it is based on a per square foot price of the land comparable to what has sold nearby. So if I go up the street, there's this brand new apartment building. And before this brand new apartment building 3 years ago on this corner, there was a little liquor store, there was a flower shop, there might have been one other business. And what I did, and I have this in a spreadsheet, I broke down each individual parcel of all those sales and put a per square foot value on that dirt prior to them building this apartment building. And you have to be conscious of, the closer you get to the core, or the closer you get to maybe a more expensive piece of ground, that can't be your exact comp, because this one is a little bit further away from downtown, but still it's used as a base to say, okay, they paid $50 a square foot over there. Is this one worth $40 a square foot, for example?
And you're doing that on the square foot of the land itself?
Yes, square foot of the land. Yep.
Huh. Wow.
Yep. Now,
so
again,
it might be 10,500 square feet for the land. And
yep.
Okay, so I'm on the same page, right?
Yep, exactly. So look at where apartments have been built, see if you can figure out the data, the GIS, the tax data usually will have previous sales history. If not, talk to your realtor friend that they have access to that data. Say, hey, what did that sell for per square foot, or just sell for? You can figure out this land square footage. And that's how I would probably go about valuing it. Of course, if you can buy it based on the house value, you probably have a lot more upside if there's a lot of development in the area based on the per square foot value, because of where things are headed. So that's how I would approach it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think in this example, it sounds like the house needs to be torn down, probably.
Yep.
Any questions out here, guys, in Zoom room or anywhere? Feel free to put them in the chat if you're out there in the cloud, I guess, wherever you are watching on whatever platform. Put it in the chat. We'll try to find you. And if you're in the Zoom room, feel free to unmute your microphone and turn your camera on if you would, and interact with us. We're going to try to wrap up here probably within the next 10 minutes or so. You can tell it's a real privilege for us to have Bucky Beeman here, and I want to respect his time and don't want to drag this out too long. He's been with us almost an hour now, so let's do Q&A for sure. John says, you can also do a sandwich lease with commercial, correct? Does that make sense to you, Bucky? What he's asking?
I don't know what a sandwich lease is. When he says that, I think a Subway.
Yeah, he's talking about where you would go to the original owner and you would get a master lease, and then you would sublet it to a tenant of your own or something like that.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. So I have an office in downtown Rochester, and the building owner doesn't want to sell. The building owner has his store on the main floor. The upstairs was completely vacant. And I worked out a deal with him where he improved most of it, and I signed a 30-year lease. And then I'm subleasing the individual offices that are up there in the space, and I have my own office. And then I also put in the deal the opportunity, first option, to buy the building if he ever does want to sell. The location's awesome. It's never going to it's right by Mayo Clinic. It's never going to get worse unless Mayo absolutely fails. So it's like, it made sense for me to sign a super long-term lease and build in there that option to purchase for the long-standing future, so that I could, if he ever does want to sell, I have that opportunity.
So sandwich lease option there, or not technically a sandwich lease option, a sandwich lease, but you kept the option.
Yeah, I kept it in there because I don't want to have him sell without me at least getting a shot.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. That's good. And you said a 30-year lease. Okay. Because in the commercial world, in the single family world, we rent our houses here, if you're a renter, for like maybe a year, maybe not longer than that. You know, your whole life, you've never rented an apartment or anything longer than a year at a time. But in the commercial world, 20, 30 years is pretty normal, right?
It's more normal than any other type of transaction. Absolutely. So yeah, this is the space. As you can see, it's kind of a historic looking building, Main Street, in a busy area. Mayo Clinic's right next door. So yeah, I was able to structure a deal that 30 years made sense financially, with what he was providing for lease rates. And I felt like the risk was worth the reward of, one, I get a nice office in a great location. Two, if I don't need the office, I could rent the whole space and I would not be out money. I would be money ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I'm amazed at the buildings that you've shown us today because they all look good. I mean, other than the one that you said that you refaced the strip mall,
Yeah, right.
you haven't really had to go in and reface all these, have you?
Interior wise has been a lot of work. So like the one I just showed, it was about, and the landlord financed it. The landlord paid for it as a tenant improvement allowance. It was 250 grand for the build out, new bathrooms, new electrical, new heating. So again, my experiences with remodels, not as much as exterior work or from the ground up.
Yeah. Another question, Bucky. What's the best way to deal with the buyer's mortgage payment shock if they are paying the market rate lease price during the option period, but their mortgage payment will end up being much more? Does that make sense to you?
I'm going to have to do that one again. So maybe just repeat it real quick.
Okay. What's the best way to deal with the buyers? I guess your buyers,
Yep.
if you're selling the place, mortgage payment shock if they are paying the market rate lease price. Okay, so if they're paying market rent, I guess, but the mortgage payment they end up with or going to end up with is more than the rent was.
Here's how I would break it down is I would show what portion of that payment is going towards equity and help unfold this property ownership opportunity as to what it might mean for them in their life 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 15 years from now. And if they make additional principal payments, and if you're allowing them to do additional principal payments, or the bank is, how they can knock this thing out of the park and not have that interest or AKA rent fee that is not getting them anything. Like really unfold the benefits of property ownership.
Oh yeah, that's so true. Yeah, because it's a different game altogether. They're just giving their money away in a rent scenario, but in an ownership scenario, even though it will cost more, they're gaining equity, right? They have the ownership control of the property now. Exactly. So you got to sell the deal. That's what he's saying, right, Bucky?
Yeah.
You say you sell the deal, right? If you're gonna sell the deal, sell the deal. All right. Any other questions out there, guys? While we have Mr. Bucky Beeman with us this morning, any other thing?
Oh yeah, I
I
got one
think,
real quick.
yeah.
Hey Bucky, Rick from California. How you doing, man?
Good. How are you, Rick?
Good, thanks. Hey, are there any like what's the smallest population of a town that you would consider doing like a project like this in? Do you try to stay away from smaller towns and things?
I'm not opposed to small towns personally, but it really comes down to, do you have the renter? I would be less open to just buying a building on spec in a smaller town, thinking the small business will come, because in these smaller towns, it is not as easy to get a small business to open up because there just isn't the business there. I just pulled up a city to look at this population. Zumbrota, Minnesota, 3,252 people in this community. I just listed an old library that could become so many cool things. It could become a coffee shop. It could become a little movie theater. I don't know. It could become a lot of different stuff. And I wouldn't personally it's only 150,000 for this cool historic looking building. I have a difficult time throwing that money at it, even if I can get it given from a bank to me, because it's like, I don't know how I'm going to satisfy that mortgage payment because there's not as much small business activity occurring. And so that's where I would say you got to have the renter. So if you hear of somebody that's expanding in a small town, then go ahead and propose to them how you could help them get into a new location. But if you don't have that renter, I'm not taking that risk. And I just pulled up on the screen that library just so people can see what I'm talking about. Maybe there's a buyer out there for it.
Yeah. If you're interested, guys, you know how to reach Bucky, right? How do you do it? How do we reach you, Bucky?
I'm on all the social platforms. Probably the one I'm most on is Instagram, just my name, Bucky Beeman. But I'm on Twitter, I'm on Snapchat, I'm on Facebook. So go ahead and give me a follow.
You can't forget a name like Bucky Beeman. I mean, just the name itself sounds like somebody that ought to be famous. Like for real. I'm being serious.
I usually show up to meetings and they're expecting somebody that was like 60 years old with that name, and then I surprise them coming in looking like I'm 15.
Like an old country and western singer.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you play guitar?
I don't. Play a mean air guitar though.
Hey, that's good.
That was a good question, Rick. That was a great question.
Oh, appreciate you. Appreciate your time for sure.
Do you ever have negative cash flow? And if so, do you ever use rent credits as a way to make up that negative cash flow? Does that make sense to you?
So negative cash flow and rent credits. How would explain to me the rent credit concept?
Don't know. That's all I got. That's all
rent
I got.
Credits. Okay. So
sorry, guys.
If I think of rent credits to make up for that negative cash flow, when I think of negative cash flow, it's like because I don't have someone renting the building.
Right.
And I'm using my full-time job, a salesperson in commercial real estate, to make up for that difference. So if you have a full-time job, using that to help cover it, hopefully for not too long. Using rent credits, I don't have rent credits. Do I give my tenants rent credits?
I don't see how it applies. I don't see how the two tie together, to be honest with you. Yeah. But
I will tell you right now, with the virus, we are having to work out payment plans with our tenants, and especially small businesses. And so we're looking at either tacking it at the end of their lease and just extending their lease, maybe amortizing it over the remainder of the lease. It's not like, I don't know. We'll find something out. And part of it depends on the bank. Like, is the bank going to just forgive our mortgage? No, they're going to make us pay it. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah. Okay. And that's right. That's right, guys. That's the headline that should be on the front of the newspaper this morning. It should say, when this shit's over, all that money is still going to be due. So get ready. You're going to have to figure out how to pay it somehow. It's not a free lunch. It's not a free vacation. Nobody's going to get free rent, really. I don't see, I don't think so. Okay. I don't see any more questions in the chat right now. Dave said, Bucky, you got the Midas touch, and you do. I want to know, when are you coming out with your course? Because there's got to be something, man. A fellow with this kind of experience and this level of knowledge and expertise in this particular topic, man, you're cheating the world. You're cheating the world. You got to put together something for us, because I'll be like one of the first ones to sign up, man.
Awesome. Well, that's my motivation right there. I need your help in showing me how to do it, but let's go.
Well, I think right now, I think what we just cut right here was a good promo. That's the trailer right there. Boom.
All right, good.
Anybody else out there? Last chance before we sign off. Last chance. Anything? Anybody? Going once.
One more question.
Great.
If you're doing a contract for deed with the owner, is there any time where that seller needs to be off that contract to qualify for like another project or anything like that? Or is there other means that you can take it over so it kind of is off of his like financial obligations, so he qualifies for doing something else?
Good question.
Yeah, that's a great question. Everyone's different. Where I've ran into it is I dealt with a husband and wife that were getting a divorce, and what they owed on the property was over what they could sell it for. And so what I worked out with them is I would basically, let's see, I got to think back of this deal. And it wasn't far, but after paying commission and everything, like, they would lose money. And so I basically took the position as let's see what I did. I did a lease with the option to purchase, but then a portion of my lease payments were going towards the principal, because they had a due on sale clause in their loan where if they sold it on a contract, potentially the bank could call it all due. So we did a lease with the option to purchase. Eventually what occurred is they wanted to go buy new houses, and this was still on their books. And so they came to me and they're like, can you sell it now? And I had rented it for like 3 years and I had built up a little equity. So I didn't make a fortune by any means, but I made enough to make sense. And so yes, that had occurred. But for the most part, the people I'm dealing with, they've built up enough net worth. They've built up enough money in retirement funds, things like that. When they look to go do stuff, it doesn't affect them that they have this note they're still collecting on. But that is a good question. It does happen.
Gotcha. Okay. No, thanks for sharing. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff. Anybody else got a question? Anybody else? Ain't gonna last forever.
And you can bring questions too to me on Instagram or any of those other platforms as well.
Yeah, hit him up, guys. Find him, all right, because his content, he's like me, he's real. Okay, he has content like that's not just always about real estate or something like that, you know. So he shares interesting things about his life and what he's doing too. But you can find him at Bucky Beeman on Instagram and at Bucky Beeman on Twitter. I know he's on TikTok too. You might check that out. And you might check him out on, I don't know where else, Facebook and YouTube. I think he's got a little bit of stuff going on there too, at least.
Yeah, I'm trying to dabble in YouTube.
Yeah, I say a little bit, but I was being funny because I think you got quite a few videos and people can check them out. Okay. Anything else? Last chance, guys. Going once, twice, sold. Okay. Bucky, thank you for being here. It's been a real honor, been a privilege, and we've learned a lot. We've gained a lot from you being here and expanding our minds, stretching us, showing us some things that we've just been right in our face the whole time, but we never even recognized the opportunities. And man, that in itself is priceless. So we can't thank you enough. Glad you're here. And once you come back sometime too. And I do want that. I do want to see a course, man, because there's somebody put in the chat here. Yeah, I'd buy it. Yeah, I'd buy it. See, you got the first two commitments right there, man. So anything I can do to help on that too, I would. But so we can talk again if you want offline. But anyway, love you guys. Everybody, thank you for being here.
Yo.
Okay, was that you?
That's not me.
I thought that was what.
Oh, yeah, that might have been me. I might
one of your buttons.
hit the wrong button.
Okay, good. Hey, good that you did though, because you reminded me I got to buy one of them because I want one. I got to have that. I got to have the power of the push button sounds. I got this other thing and it's cheap and it's nasty, but this is the real deal. I want. All right. Hey, love you guys. We'll see you next week. Thank you. We'll talk soon. Go check out Bucky Beeman. We'll see you soon.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for the opportunity.